Welcome to the Website Success Show, the podcast dedicated to helping women in business get more traffic and sales through their website with less reliance on social media and paid ads. I'm Jules White, the founder of the Website Success Hub, and I love helping local and online businesses make more money through their existing website. If you have a business you love, but you don't like the way your website performs, then this is the show for you. Today, we're diving into another website SEO audit for the wonderful Brittany Long. So by the end of this episode, hopefully we'll have identified one or two key areas that you can focus on to reach your goals over the next 6 months. So welcome, Brittany. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited because my website is a hot mess. So I'm very, very excited.
You're not the first person to say that. Oh, that's often what people say when they meet me. So before we start, I have a question for you. So if we were to meet in 6 months' time and you were telling me about the amazing things happening in your business, how would your website be helping with that?
I think probably the biggest thing is that people would be like, oh, I found you on Google, or, oh, I saw your website and it really spoke to me, instead of right now, which they're like, I can't find you. Like, do you exist online? Are you real? And so, yeah, I think
Yeah, we definitely don't want that. We want it's
no.
much better when people can find you, especially when you have
Yeah.
such a big online presence elsewhere outside of your website that actually, yeah, we want to try and fix that if we can.
Yeah.
So before we start, tell us a little bit about your business and how your website kind of currently sits within your marketing activities.
Okay, so my business, I help people learn how to use AI in their business and implement it. My goal is to help folks have a regret-free life. So that means not spending all day behind a computer unless they really want to, but using AI to really simplify things, speed things up, and get from point A to point B a lot faster without sacrificing quality. How my website sits with me right now, it really is a non-factor because it doesn't do anything for my business, I guess is what I'm saying, like at all. I spend so much time and effort and work into like getting an online presence and making it really good and making sure that people trust me and I love working with me and stuff like that. And so I feel like my website is doing a huge disservice because it is garbage. So yeah.
Definitely not garbage. Let me say that first. It's not garbage.
Okay.
So you're doing lots and lots on social media and in other places, do you mean? Or is it?
Yeah, so social media, we've had some ads running in the past. I do a lot of trainings and like in different people's groups and stuff like that. And so in the online space, people know me, but on like if they don't know me, I guess that's the problem. If they don't know me and then they go to my website, they're like, "Oh, this isn't like why would we go with her?" But if they have met me before or if they've seen me in action, they're like, "Oh, I want to work with her." And so there's like this disconnect between when somebody's in my world, it's easy for them to work with me. When they aren't in my world, it's harder to bring them in because my website doesn't really like build that authority.
Okay. So for people that are in your world already, where would you be sending them? So this is definitely how I connected with you, Brittany. I think I met you. I know I met you through Geek Pack, through
Yeah.
training in Julia Taylor's Geek Pack, as I have with so many. I was on with somebody yesterday and we were talking, and that's how I met them as well. But definitely those where you're in groups and talking. And actually, you've been into my Facebook group and did a fantastic talk there as well. But where would you be sending people once they actually
Yeah,
go from there?
usually a funnel. So either like one of our freebies or one of our paid offers, depending on what they want. But like at that point, they really don't know who I am. Like they know who I am based on what I told them in the thing, but they don't have like that clear picture of here's everything that she offers, all the ways that she can help. Here's, why she's doing this and stuff. Because the funnel has a little bit of that, but not as much, obviously, as a website would.
I was having a look at some of your stuff, and I think this is probably a big area where there's some potential. So you have your website and then you have landing pages that lead into a funnel, do you? And are those landing pages on a different domain to your website?
Yeah, they're on high level.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start sharing my screen. It's actually quite a common thing as well. So let me get the right screen. And I have actually got one of the podcast episodes is about this, about the difference between landing pages and sorry, I've just lost you completely.
The other thing I was gonna say is that I feel like how I did the website, it feels very like me centric, and I don't really want that. Like I want it to be about the people I'm helping. But
Yeah.
I think when I put it up, I was like, well, I don't have a lot of time, and I had just gotten some new pictures done, so I like put all those up. So it feels like, oh, it's the Brittany show, but really I want it to feel like, hey, here's how I can help you. And so I
Yeah.
don't really share my website with a lot of people because it feels, I don't know if embarrassing is the right word, but it feels like it's all about me, and I just don't I don't want that to come across that way, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think this is a big problem when people have a website that they're not confident in and they're just not proud of. It's not at that point where you think, yeah, this is a great representation of how I can help people. Then you just don't share it. And that is a bit of a vicious cycle as well, because if you're not sharing it and you're not getting found on Google, then it doesn't tell Google that this is a place to send people. Whereas actually, even if you're not doing anything, even if your SEO hasn't been working, if you, those people that were meeting you in the communities and the places where you're speaking or on through social media, if they were then going to your website and spending time there, that's a really good signal to Google that this is a good website and this is where I should send people. So I think that's definitely something that it's worth bearing in mind, that every domain you have has its own SEO. So Google will treat all of your domains and most likely all of your subdomains as well as individual websites. So it's finding ways to actually tie those in together. When I looked, I think your sales pages, your landing pages were on your Win with Systems domain, are they?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
used to be because we were in Kartra, and so that was the only option. And so now they're on high level, but it's not under impact driven AI. It's like a different domain. And so
Okay.
basically, I just make the most possible work for myself, it seems like. And so, yeah, that's where we're at.
It's also that entrepreneurial thing of I have to buy another domain name. It's been 10
Yeah.
minutes and I haven't bought another domain name. So there's definitely that. I can relate to that. So tell me a little bit about the two domains. So you've got the Win with Systems and you've got the impact driven AI, and they are different branches to your business, aren't they?
Yeah, so they're really two different brands. Win with Systems is all about email marketing. And when ChatGPT came out, that's when I was like, okay, things will have to change. And so Win with Systems, we've done a lot with, and I leave it up because we have templates and stuff like that for people that want to write emails faster with AI, being able to put in that template and then use AI to like fill it in basically with their information. We still have people that buy that. So I leave it up, but like the how we can work together, I'm pretty sure that's outdated. And so, yeah, I just haven't done like hardly anything with it. And then I do have people that Google a lot, AI Copy Club and like how to log in. So that's why I put that there too, just in case.
Okay. So it's not necessarily that this needs to stay there. If you could combine this content with your other domain, would that work in terms of, because I mean, yeah, definitely, as you say, if people are looking to use AI to help with email writing, then it feels like that aligns
Yeah.
with, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, because when I looked, the reason I said that is that when I looked, I was one of the first things I do when I'm coming in and working with somebody and looking at their SEO, I will always do a few things. So I'll come into my little SEO tool and I'll have a look and see from the outside, and it doesn't always give us a full picture, but I'll have a look at what kind of levels of traffic you're getting to your site, what keywords you are showing up for, and I think more importantly, what you're not, because I know, having learned so much from you, I've been in your world and been in your communities and in your programs, and I've learned so much about AI and in general, just about entrepreneurial life from you. I think that actually, there's so much stuff that I think, well, you should be definitely showing up for that because it's criminal if you're not really. And
Yeah.
it's again, it's a common thing. I have this conversation so often with people where actually, why are you not showing up for that? Because there's so many other people out there. And I know you're all about empowering women to do well in business. And actually, I think that, yeah, if we can make the most of that and make sure that even just the basic things that you are showing up for those, then that's really important. So when I look at the difference between the impact driven AI domain and then the Win with Systems domain, you've actually got, I mean, neither of them are getting a lot of traffic really, but you have got more keywords that you're showing up for Win with Systems. So your name is showing up for that, not necessarily in a higher position, but at least Google is associating that with you and your name.
Mhm.
But there are other things showing up. I think when I looked on page 2, copy club was coming, AI copy was coming up there. So there are things that there's certainly more being associated with, like more keywords being
Mhm.
associated with systems than impact driven AI.
Mhm.
But part of the reason that might be happening is there's actually something you can do, and this is something anybody can do. You can go to Google and type in site colon, I think it's colon, not semicolon, the double dots colon, and then your domain. So don't put in HTTP, don't put anything like that. Don't no www, just put in your domain afterwards, and that will give you an idea of what Google is actually indexing for your site. So I did it for both of them. So for impact driven AI, and you've got blogs on there. I've looked and see, I'm not sure how many blogs you've got on there, but you've actually only got 10 results in Google for impact driven AI. So what that essentially means is something is happening that's stopping Google from actually seeing those pages. It might be that you haven't got a sitemap submitted to Google. It might be that you have, but Google just hasn't crawled through your site because it's not getting any traffic. Google is then hasn't crawled through your site to understand that these pages are there and start indexing them. So there's different things that can happen that can cause that to happen. But then when I look at Win with Systems, you've got 81 pages in there. So the blogs that you have in Win with Systems are being indexed by Google, but it looks like your blogs that you've got on Impact Driven AI aren't. So have you got Google Search Console set up at all?
I think so, but if I do, I haven't looked at it in a long time.
So that's one of the things that I would always say to people to start off with is make sure you've got Google Search Console. A lot of people will get confused between Google Search Console and Google Analytics. So Google Analytics tells you how people have come to your site and what they do when they're there, and it can be really overwhelming. You go into Google Analytics dashboard and it's just like a load of graphs, loads of different charts, and it looks really overwhelming. Whereas Google Search Console is actually a lot easier to use. It's a lot more user friendly. There's some bits to it that look a bit confusing, but actually what you can do is go in, submit your sitemap to Google, and a sitemap is essentially just something that's in the back end of your website that will then tell Google what the structure of your site is and what pages are there. So you can go in and do that. And then actually that encourages Google to start crawling through your website and start indexing those pages, because if those pages aren't indexed, then Google is never going to show them in a search results. So you might have fantastic blogs in there that could be really helpful for people, but Google doesn't know that they exist or doesn't know to actually show those in search results. So I certainly would start there to begin with. Do you know roughly how many blogs you've got on this? Is it
I
like
think
more
we
than?
only have like we only have like five, I think, but I mean
Okay.
we have a bazillion that we could upload, but because I feel like I don't want to send people to my website because I feel like it's not good, I just haven't made it a priority, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous because we have so many that we could upload. So yeah.
Yeah, so much amazing content, especially if you've got the content there already. And what you could also do is you could kind of merge just your domains together. So if you've got some blogs that are good content that you would like to share from this site, from the Win with Systems site, you could always make that migration over. So you bring those over to here, or bring those over to the
That'd
Impact
be
Driven
great.
AI site. And then, I mean, in terms of actually how to make changes, your website's built on WordPress, isn't it? And are you or somebody in your business comfortable with actually making changes? Is that one of the barriers? Is it the barrier of just knowing what to do, or is it the barrier of doing it yourself? Because obviously you taught me how to write sales pages, so I know you
Yeah.
can. I know you do that with AI, so it's something that you could apply that to your website as well.
The copy is fine. It's more of like if we wanted to add a new section in between these two, I'm sure we could probably figure it out, but it would take a while. And also, I don't think it would look very good because I don't know I just don't know how to do that.
No,
And so, yeah, I think the barrier is more the how to do it
yeah,
for, yeah, I think so.
okay. Because the thing is, there's a couple of ways you could approach it. So if you're not enjoying using WordPress, you could actually migrate your site to High Level and have your website there. They've literally just this week been announced something that is massive, makes a massive difference that they should have had before, but you can now actually have multi-path redirect. So it means that all of the pages you've got on your existing website, you can now migrate them over to High Level, and essentially you could build your website again within High Level. So you could potentially do that. And this leads on to the podcast episode that I talked about, whether you were like the difference between landing pages, websites, and web pages. And essentially, they're all just pages on the web. And this is something that happens a lot where people have got amazing landing pages where you're talking about all of the things that you do. You put all your amazing copy in there and everything in there that talks about the problems you solve and how you solve it and the struggles of your potential clients. And then it goes on as a subdomain, or like quite often just a random domain that's only got that sales page on it, and that's not then helping your main domain to actually do better, and to all of those words that are on your sales pages that is about what you do and could help Google to understand what you do is then not associated with your main website, really. So that's one thing I would say is try not to think of your landing pages as something completely separate to your website, whereas actually they could be really helping to support your website. And even if you are using something like if you're using a separate website and then using something like High Level, my theory on it and what I would do is to have your website with your landing pages all in one place, and then just come over to the checkout page. If you want to use a separate domain, just do that with the checkout page, because then that way, once you get to the checkout page, that's not the kind of page that you're going to then will be showing up on Google. So that I would maybe think about doing that, is maybe it's time to move away from WordPress and just use high level for the website as well.
Interesting. Okay.
Obviously, it's a different approach, and there are downsides with any all-in-one platform. There are definitely downsides, but my website is on high level. I use FEA Create, which is the white label version of high level, but my website's on there, and I've got pages that are ranking in Google. So there's no reason why a website that's built well within high level can't rank any better than one that's built in WordPress. So yeah. And that actually does lead me on to something with your WordPress site. The other thing that I check often when I sort of first come in and look at sites is the page speed. So one of the benefits of WordPress is that you have complete control, or pretty much complete control, on things like the site speed and the URLs. And there's so much, it's basically you can kind of do anything you want in WordPress. But people don't necessarily always do that. So there are, for a WordPress website, I would ideally love to see it up into the green. So up into the sort of 70 to 90 for both desktop and mobile. You're using Elementor, which can sometimes be a little bit heavy on code, and sometimes it's a bit slower. And that's why sometimes you'll see Elementor sites that are a bit slow. The reason it's important for sites to load quickly is because Google has a mobile first policy. So Google wants to see sites that are going to load well. Ideally, within every page of your website should load within 3 seconds. So that it doesn't look like the website is hung up, or it has crashed, or isn't loading, because otherwise people just then bounce straight back to Google from that Google search. So that then tells Google, okay, this website isn't good, because they're coming back to the Google search. One of the things you could do, if you decided, okay, no, we're going to stick with WordPress, is you could use a plugin to help to speed up your website. So I think there's one called Rocket WP. I can't think of the one that I use on my client site, but there's quite a few. If you look for something, then you can kind of optimize your WordPress. It does it for you, and then it speeds your website up. But there's one particular part of your site that was causing the problem, and it seemed to be this banner at the top here. So it was, let's have a little look. I saw it earlier. Oh no, it was the one below this. It was largest content paint. So essentially, this is the part of your site that's taking the longest to load, and for some reason, it's this banner at the top of the site here. And that might be something within the Elementor code. But yeah, essentially, if you're thinking, okay, maybe we'll stay with WordPress, then I would be looking at that kind of stuff first. So speeding up your page so that it loads quickly on mobile, that it's mobile responsive as well. That's really important for SEO.
I never would have thought of that. I would have been like, oh, it's the picture, it's this thing, it's that thing. Yeah. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. That's the things that you can then do that could be a quick win. It's something that's not going to suddenly make you rank on Google, but it's all those things that have a knock-on effect of actually, then if you're trying to get some traffic from Google, then actually all of those things should be in place. And they're kind of the foundations that should be in place first. So ideally you want a site that loads quickly, is good to use. It's a pleasure for people to use on desktop and on mobile, especially on mobile. And ideally, what we want to do is tell people within 3 seconds they land on our site. We want them to know what we do, how we're going to make their life better, and what they need to do to get it. And ideally, within, to capture that within their attention span of whatever the latest sort of stats are. I think they say like 7 seconds. I'm sure it's much less than that we've got to actually grab people's attention. But you could take the principles that you use when you're building landing pages and just apply that to your website. I don't know if you are familiar with Donald Miller at all with the Build a Story brand. Yeah. He has a fantastic 5-minute marketing makeover series that even if you watched that and applied that to your website and just literally built your homepage and your services page out and then got those on the same domain as your landing pages, that would just help to build that authority. Things are changing a little bit with search and obviously with AI searches and AI overviews. It is changing. Over the next year, there's going to be big changes, but the fundamentals of what you need to do to rank within AI searches are still the SEO fundamentals. So we still need to make sure that the information on our web pages are set up in a way that the bots can read it, whether that's Google's bots or ChatGPT or Bing, whatever it is that's reading our websites needs to understand that data. And the more we can kind of structure it and think of it that way, then that's something to focus on really if you're thinking about getting traffic. There's different ways that you can focus on actually helping those search engines or the bots or whatever is scanning your site, helping it to understand what your site is about. I always say with my clients, let's focus on what you want to show up for. So I would definitely sit and think, and you've probably got all of this stuff. You've got all the strategy for your social media and for your email campaigns and everything that you do. So it's probably not too much of a stretch for you even to sit and do that. And you'd probably use ChatGPT to help you with this realistically, wouldn't you? But sometimes just thinking about that, thinking about what other things. So if somebody was, I think AI overviews it and actually what ChatGPT understands about you, or whichever AI you're using, what that understands about you is quite a good place to start. So whether you think about that from your business perspective, so if somebody asks what is impact driven AI of ChatGPT, what would it say about me? I think I Googled Brittany Long, and I can't remember what it came up. Oh, and then I Googled impact driven AI. So your website did come up first but I had already visited it actually. So that's a good thing to mention, the fact that everything that comes up on Google search does depend on what we've searched for before, and where we are in the world and all sorts of things really. But it's worth thinking about, okay, if somebody was searching for me online or my business online, what would I want that snippet that ChatGPT is now delivering? What would I want that to say about me? And actually then thinking, okay, so I know I want to show up for whatever search term it is that you want to show up for. What page of my website is the best one to show up for that? And then to optimize that page. And the way that you optimize the page is by using those terms that you want to show up for, using them in specific places on your website. So the page title and description are the two places that can be really helpful to use your keywords there. So the thing that you want to show up for, making sure that is actually mentioned within your page title and your descriptions. So, okay, so on your homepage, your description is really long, and on your blog page, it doesn't exist. So Google doesn't all, yeah, I know, but it's really common as well. I mean, the thing with using WordPress is it's actually really easy to fix these things as well within WordPress. So this is something you could go in, and maybe it's not you doing it, maybe it's a member of your team doing that for you, but you could go in and add these bits in. Even if you do nothing else about your whole of your website, you just literally go in and add your page titles and descriptions and a unique one for each page for what you want that page to show up for, then that's a good place to start. And then obviously making sure that your site is actually indexed in Google. So setting up Google Search Console and actually going into that. But yeah, so adding in page title and description, ideally getting them to the right sort of length. So your page titles, you want between 35 and 60 characters. Page descriptions, you want them to be between 119 and 135 characters. Seems to do best in Google. Google doesn't always respect what you put in your page description. Sometimes Google will decide, no, I think this page is about this, and it will take a snippet from your page and add that in there. So the more you can tie your description into what that page is actually about, the more likely that Google will actually respect that. But essentially what we're trying to do here is to entice people to click through to your site from the Google search results. So your description for your homepage that Google is, with the help of AI, you can create quality content faster, become more visible without hiring a giant marketing firm, create better experiences for, and that's where it kind of gets cut off and truncated. So, oh, there you go. So that's taken that from that first paragraph of the page, really. So if there's something that you think actually this would be more likely to make people to click through to my website from Google, then you could add that in there. And obviously with all of this, you're going to be using AI to help you write all this stuff, really. And sometimes it's a case of just having a play around with things and just getting those basics in place just to begin with, really, and sort of go from there. How does that feel for a few things to kind of think about? Obviously, the big thing to think about is what your long-term goal is with the domains.
I think everything that you said makes a lot of sense. And I feel like there's some things that I'm like, cool, I can take action on this right away. But then a lot of it is probably how a lot of people feel with AI is that I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much that I need to learn in order to to do this and to do it well. And also it has to be a priority because especially if I'm spending all this time and energy marketing all these other ways, like I just want to make things easier for myself. So yeah, that's kind of where what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I think I'm all about creating content for our own domain first. It's like real value in my business. It's something that I fundamentally believe in, that if we're creating something that we own first and then using that as a way to then market from that. So everything we do comes back to our domain. And I just think that the more we can do that, then the more we're actually building something that we have control of. So with our social media accounts and all of those things, if our account gets shut down, and we do hear about that happening, of end up losing your Instagram account, and if that's where most of your content is and most of your authority online is there, then I think your own website is something that you own, and no algorithm can take that away from you, really.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you have fantastic, amazing sales pages. So even if you just tweaked your website to be more like your sales pages, then that wouldn't be a bad start for you, really. So I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you have any questions or anything from what we've talked about, anything in particular that is a burning question?
I don't think so. I'm sure that it'll come up for me later. I guess
Yeah.
maybe my only question really is like, what's the first immediate step that I should take? Like if I was taking one step today, what would be the most important step to take?
So I think the biggest thing is getting Google Search Console set up and making sure that your site is actually indexed. Because at the
Okay.
moment, all of
I'm
your
pretty
blogs
sure
and
it's
things,
not.
even if you've only got a few blogs on there, then
Yeah.
whatever's on there is not helping you in the way it could, really.
Yeah.
And
I
then for
think maybe
you,
also,
sorry, go on.
go ahead. I was gonna say, I don't think I know what you said site index. I don't even think I know what that means.
So essentially what you would do, so you go into Google Search Console. I've got a podcast episode about Google Search Console and using it and how it helps your business, actually. And on my website, I do actually have a course. So it teaches you how to set up Google Search Console and Google Analytics and how to use them for the basics, basically. So I will link to that in the show notes in this podcast as well. But you can just literally go in, you set up Google Search Console. You just have to go into your DNS records and just add a record in there that links basically your website to Google Search Console. And then when you go in there, you'll see some menus on the left-hand side. And one of them says sitemap, or don't, let me have a little look and see what it says online.
I've definitely heard that term before, the site index and sitemap. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that sounds good, but I'm like, I don't know what that means.
So your sitemap, because you're on WordPress, it's easy because you can install something like Rank Math or Yoast, and that will actually do that for you. I recommend Rank Math actually to do
You
that.
said rank map?
Rank Math, yeah, it's a plugin that you can use. So, oh, there you go. That you've already got all-in-one SEO installed on your website
Oh,
because
great.
that's what's done your sitemap. But essentially, what this is, yeah. So this sitemap, oh, you've got different ones for the blogs and things like that. So category. Post. So this might be why that you haven't got it looks like you haven't got a main sitemap in there. So it would be worth looking at those settings. I would consider maybe uninstalling all-in-one SEO and installing Rank Math as well, because I know I've not used I use all-in-one SEO as this little plugin that tells me all about from the front end, but I've never used it in the back end of WordPress. But I know that using Rank Math, it's simple to use. So I would maybe think about doing that. But again, it depends. If you make that decision of actually, no, I think I'm going to move the website over onto high level, then you might not want to focus on this. But you certainly could go into the back end of your Google Search Console. And so it says sitemaps on the side. And all you would do is go in, copy this impactdrivenai.com/sitemap.xml and submit that to Google. And if you did nothing else, at least it tells Google that this is the sitemaps for your website, really.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is really helpful. And I feel like I learned a lot too, which I appreciate.
Good. Yeah. What it might just make you do is just think about, okay, how can I make the most of that website content to support those landing pages? And maybe that is a decision on which domain you kind of focus on. So if you decide, okay, I'm going to close down Win with Systems, you can then migrate that and tell Google that this is moving to this site or whatever way you decide to do it. So it's just anything that can avoid confusion for Google and for people is good, I think, really. So before we finish, I would love you just to give yourself a shout out again, just remind us of where people can connect with you and specifically how you help people again.
Yeah, I work with entrepreneurs to help them use AI in their business, AI automations, and as AGI comes out, that as well. And you can find me on Instagram. It's Women Thrive with AI, or also Impact Driven AI. I have both of those too.
Fantastic. That's great. So if this episode has made you think about using AI more in your business, definitely check out Brittany's links. I will link those in the show notes. I've learned so much from Brittany about AI, and I actually have a few episodes of the Website Success Show as well. So episodes between 47 and 53, I talk about things about like how I use AI in my personal life and how I use it for SEO as well. So I'll link to those in the show notes too. So thank you so much for listening, and thanks Brittany for being here, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Website Success Show. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps others find the show. If you're ready to make your website work harder for you, grab my free beginner's guide to SEO. It's packed with simple, actionable tips to help you get started improving your website's visibility and attracting your dream client. Head to thewebsitesuccesshub.com/start to download it and take the guesswork out of creating a website that works for your business.